So you want to master anything in life. Master skills like Leonardo da Vinci, think across disciplines like Benjamin Franklin, and solve problems others can't even see? Well, you've clicked on the right video. There's never been a more perfect time to become a polymath in this day and age, especially when our hyper-specialized world is missing the biggest breakthroughs that happen at the intersections. I'm here to try to inspire and motivate as many people as possible to break free from the one-skill-only trap. I've researched and summarized everything it takes to think like history's greatest minds, from Da Vinci's learning methods to modern neuroscience on expertise. So by the end of this video, I'll show you how you can systematically develop mastery across multiple fields, connect insights others miss, accelerate your learning using modern tools, and become a person that's just built differently. I'll also include some additional tips on overcoming plateaus and staying motivated, so stay tuned. Let's define what a polymath truly means and why it matters in the first place. A polymath isn't someone who just knows a little about everything. They achieve excellence across multiple disciplines and use insights from one field to innovate in another. Think Leonardo combining art with anatomy, or Steve Jobs merging technology with design thinking. But isn't this just being a generalist? Well, not quite. The difference lies in depth versus breadth. Polymaths build bridges between areas of expertise, while generalists just collect surface knowledge. I'm not going to lie to you, but our society has created a massive limitation. We've been conditioned since childhood to answer, what do you want to be when you grow up? With one thing, the world pushes us toward narrow specialization, become an expert in one field, and stay in your lane. Don't get me wrong, deep expertise is completely fine, but there's a problem with focusing too narrowly. While specialists build higher walls around their knowledge, they miss the revolutionary breakthroughs that happen when different fields collide. It's not about choosing between depth and breadth, it's about building bridges between both. Those who know their time is limited, but still strive to connect ideas across domains, they're the ones changing the world. Every child starts as a natural polymath, asking why about everything. But as we grow up, many of us lose that cross-disciplinary curiosity. There is no nobility in mediocrity or limiting yourself to one narrow field. You can still explore, experiment, and become much more than society tells you is possible. And here's the best part. AI tools, online learning, and digital communities make developing polymath skills more accessible than ever. So if you don't start thinking this way now, then you're definitely going to regret it when the world rewards connection makers and you're stuck in a silo. But before you can build those bridges between disciplines, you need to understand what separates real polymaths from people who just dabble. So here's where it gets interesting. Most people think becoming a Renaissance person died with the Renaissance. I'm not going to lie to you. I used to think the same thing, that in our hyper-specialized world, you had to pick one lane and stay in it forever. But let's cut to the chase. What exactly is a polymath, and why should you care? Don't get me wrong, specialists are important, but there's a massive difference between a generalist who knows a little about everything and a polymath who actually excels across multiple fields. See, a generalist is like someone who speaks 10 languages poorly. A polymath? They're fluent in 5 and using each one to solve problems the others can't even see. Take Leonardo da Vinci. He wasn't just an artist who dabbled in science. He revolutionized both by connecting them. His understanding of anatomy made his art lifelike. His artistic eye helped him design flying machines centuries before flight was possible. Here's what nobody tells you. In today's world, the biggest problems require the broadest minds. Climate change isn't just a science problem, it's economics, politics, psychology, and technology all wrapped together. The truth is, while everyone else is building higher walls around their expertise, polymaths are building bridges. And those bridges, they're where the real breakthroughs happen. But this is just the foundation, because before you can master anything, you have to master yourself first. So you want to build those bridges between disciplines? Here's what nobody tells you about mastering anything. You have to master yourself first. Let me be honest. I used to think willpower and talent were enough. I'd set these massive goals, burn out in 3 weeks, then wonder why I couldn't stick to anything. Trust me, I also struggled with this. But here's the problem with the way most people approach learning. They focus on the destination instead of the system. They say, I want to learn Spanish, instead of, I'm going to practice 15 minutes every morning. The difference lies in understanding that you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. What if I told you that improving just 1% every day leads to being 37 times better after 1 year? Not 365% better, 37 times better. That's the power of compound growth. Now this is important. Your brain is your primary tool. You wouldn't run a marathon without training your body, right? Same principle applies here. Mental and physical health aren't luxuries. They're prerequisites. The truth is, consistency beats talent every single time. While everyone else is chasing perfection, you're building the foundation that makes everything else possible. Remember those polymath bridges we talked about? They're only as strong as the foundation they're built on. Now that you've built your foundation, here's where it gets really interesting. Most people think they're learning when they're actually just fooling themselves. I'm not going to lie to you. I spent years thinking I was getting smarter by reading tons of books and watching endless YouTube videos. But here's the problem with that approach. Consuming information isn't the same as developing expertise. Let me be honest about what real expertise looks like. There are 4 criteria that separate actual experts from pretenders, and I call it the PIFT method. Think of it like a quality check for your brain. First, you need to perform detailed mental operations that go way beyond what beginners do. Second, engage robust cognitive processes. Basically, your brain needs to work harder and smarter. Third, show consistent superior performance on real tasks. And fourth, effectively convert information into valuable outcomes. But here's what actually happens when most people learn. They get stuck in what I call the 3 stages. Stage 1 is recollection, just remembering stuff. Stage 2 is interpretation, making sense of it. But stage 3, that's application, actually using it to solve real problems. Here's the thing nobody tells you. Without immediate, valid feedback, you're just practicing your mistakes over and over again. This is why building systems matter so much, because expertise isn't accidental. So expertise isn't accidental, but here's where polymaths get their real superpower. They steal ideas from one field to solve problems in another. Don't get me wrong, depth matters. Trust me, I also struggled with this. I used to think connecting different subjects was just intellectual showing off. But let me be honest about what actually happens when you start seeing patterns across domains. Most people think innovation comes from going deeper into one area. But there's a problem with that approach. The biggest breakthroughs happen at the intersections. Think about it. Steve Jobs didn't invent the computer or the phone. He connected technology with design thinking and created something nobody else could see. What if I told you that your brain is already wired for this kind of thinking? It's called analogical reasoning. Basically, your ability to spot similar patterns in different places. Let's cut to the chase. Here's how you actually do it. When you learn something new, ask yourself, what does this remind me of? When you see a solution in biology, think, how could this apply to business? Remember that systems thinking we talked about? This is where it pays off. The truth is, while everyone else is building walls around their expertise, you're collecting keys that unlock doors in completely different buildings. But knowing how to connect ideas is just the beginning. Here's the best part. You're living in the golden age of polymath development. I'm not going to lie to you. I used to think learning multiple fields meant decades of grinding through textbooks. Trust me, I also struggled with information overload, spending hours reading without really understanding how to synthesize everything. Most people think AI will replace human learning, but there's a problem with that approach. They're missing the real opportunity. What if I told you AI isn't here to think for you? It's here to amplify your thinking. Let's cut to the chase. Tools like ChatGPT and Notebook LM are like having a research assistant who never sleeps. Instead of spending 3 hours reading a complex paper, you can upload it, ask targeted questions, and get the key insights in minutes. Then, and this is crucial, You use that time to actually connect those insights to other fields. Don't get me wrong, speed reading and memory techniques still matter, but now you can combine them with AI-powered summarization to process information faster than any generation before you. Here's what actually happens when you use these tools right. You spend less time gathering information and more time creating connections. Remember those bridges we talked about? The difference lies in using technology as enhancement, not replacement. So technology gives you the enhancement, but here's where it gets real. What happens when progress stalls and motivation disappears? Let me be honest, I've hit more plateaus than I care to admit. Trust me, I also struggled with this feeling that I was spinning my wheels, putting in effort but not seeing results. Most people think plateaus mean they're not cut out for whatever they're trying to learn. But there's a problem with that approach. You're looking at plateaus all wrong. What if I told you that plateaus aren't roadblocks? They're actually where the real growth happens. Think of it this way. When you're learning guitar, you get better fast at first. Then suddenly, for weeks, it feels like nothing's improving. But underneath the surface, your brain is rewiring itself, building those neural pathways we talked about in the systems chapter. Here's the thing nobody tells you. Every single polymath in history faced the same thing. Leonardo hit plateaus in anatomy. Marie Curie hit plateaus in her radioactivity research. The difference lies in how they responded. I'm not going to lie to you. This is where most people quit. They become what I call dabblers. They jump to something new the moment things get difficult. But remember that 1% improvement principle? It works even when you can't see it. The truth is, plateaus aren't where dreams die. They're where champions are made. Remember when I asked if you wanted to master anything in life? Well, we've covered exactly how to do it. Not by choosing between depth and breadth, but by building bridges between both. Polymathy, just like those bridges we talked about, isn't about perfection or constant improvement, but rather about dedication to the process of connecting ideas across fields. As cliché as it might sound, success really does come from loving the journey, not the destination. Those plateaus that feel like setbacks, they're actually where your brain is building the neural pathways for breakthrough thinking. Be committed to the process. Make sure you stay consistent with that 1% improvement we discussed, not just in individual skills, but in your ability to see patterns everywhere. Guys, practice, experience, and hard work with resilient effort beats talent alone every single time. The systems we build, the connections we make, the curiosity we maintain, that's what transforms us from dabblers into the bridge builders this world desperately needs. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want more content on accelerated learning and building expertise across multiple fields. Leave a thumbs up if you like this video and you're ready to start thinking like a polymath. See you next time. Peace.